Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome back to GoldwingDocs. You got questions, we got answers. Episode 14. Okay, that was one person in particular. You know who you are. Coming up next. I can't believe I'm on episode 14 of this already. You guys just love these videos so much. I get so many questions. Let's start with the first one. John Paul Pets. Hello there, my dear friend. Okay, I really love this question. Do you know, and just a little context, this question was asked on a video about, it was an analysis video I did on one of our GoldwingDocs members who crashed. He was towing a trailer and missed a turnoff, and I'll put a link to the video down below. It's really worth seeing. There's video of the crash. He describes what happens, and it's really educational and worth watching. Anyway, so he commented on that video with this question. So, hello there, my dear friend. Thank you. Do you know why everything goes in slow motion when you are getting into an accident? Not Goldwing related at all, but I thought, just what a fascinating question. And yes, I do. It's called millions and millions of years of fight or flight evolution. So yes, you are in a situation where your life is at risk. You realize, oh my God, I gotta spring into action here to preserve my life. You get stress hormones, adrenaline, the top one of those, surging through your body. And what happens is your perception of time is altered. Time as you perceive it is purely subjective. Yes, you can measure time. We have devices like a watch on my arm here that measures time very, very precisely. But think about the difference between, okay, you're sitting in a boring meeting with boring people talking and you just can't wait for this to end. And it just goes on and on and on. You look at your watch and it's 9:55. And then you look at your watch 10 minutes later and it's 9:58. Time is crawling. Compare that to when you're doing something that you're just having the time of your life and you're at a birthday party for a really good friend and all your best friends are there and you're just having such a great time. You get there at 9 o'clock at night and a half hour later you look and it's 11:30. So time as you perceive it is entirely subjective to what is going on and how your brain is stimulated. And what happens when your brain is stimulated into a fight or flight situation where you're coursing with adrenaline and you have to react in an instant to preserve your own life and survive? What happens is your perception of time changes such that you can have superhuman reactions almost, because you need that in order to react fast enough to be able to get yourself out of that situation. But because your perception of time is now so slowed down, it's actually almost like things are in slow motion in comparison to your regular perception of time. I hope that makes kind of some sense. I just thought it was a really fascinating question, and it's something that I happen to have a little bit of background and knowledge in, so I thought I would answer that one. Thanks for that question, John. Next, Peter McDonough. What can the battery tender type connector plug I have installed to my battery be used for besides charging the bike? Assuming I have a proper connection to the far end, can I just run a wire and no transformer from it in order to charge my phone or to heat my electric gloves or my vest? Thanks. Yes, you can. There are actually some accessories. You can get an accessory like this here. This is a battery tender brand voltmeter, and it actually plugs right into the plug on the battery tender cable, and it comes up and shows the voltage right on the screen here. So when you disconnect the battery tender cable from your bike when it's just sitting in the garage, you just plug this in instead, and now you have a voltmeter. They also have a USB charger, one of these, and I'll put links to these actually down in the description, because they actually sell these, I think, on Amazon and other places. But you can actually get all these accessories, and not just from battery tender, because this is a standard connector for all the different kinds of float chargers. And there are quite a few different people that make accessories that plug in directly to that. So another one is a USB charger. You plug it into the pigtail there, and at the other end you got USB things you can plug in your phone and charge your phone. They've also got one you can plug it in, and at the other end is a standard cigarette lighter type plug, so you can plug in cigarette lighter adapter things into it. Heated gloves, I'm sure, yeah. You'd have to check the fuse on the battery tender pigtail. I'm not quite sure what the fuse is on there. I think it's fairly low. I think it might be about 5 amps maybe. However, the cable on the battery tender pigtail is actually really, really high quality cable. I've actually pulled one apart before. It's very fine cable. It's a good 14 gauge, so it's capable of handling many, many amps. So if you wanted to do something like run your heated gear on it, check to see how much current you're going to draw on those things. If you have gloves that are going to draw 5 amps, a heated vest that draws maybe 10 amps, so you have 15 amps draw, maybe put like a 20 amp fuse in there instead of the 5 amp. The wire will definitely handle 20 amps. Just to make sure you have the fuse in there that's capable of handling it, and you should be able to plug that right in there and you'd be good to go. Third question from Scandinavian Viking. Hello, Scott. Where can I find a longer windshield for my GL 1500? Well, I have a feeling you're talking about my windshield, which is a Tulsa Tall. These have not been made in years, unfortunately. You cannot get them. This is not only tall, but it's actually extremely wide and extremely thick. It has to be thick in order to handle the wind load put on by the extra size. There are a number of different windshields that work as well as this. Now this is nice because it sends the wind up and over you and your passenger. It's also quite wide so that it gets the wind out from around you. So in cold temperatures, this thing is a godsend. In hot temperatures, it's the exact opposite. It's awful because you're getting no cooling air at all. If you have a look on the GoldwingDocs forum, particularly in the 1500 section for your bike, there's lots of people who have reviewed different types of windshield. One of the ones that I see a lot of really good comments about is the wind bender because it's adjustable. It's actually 2 windshields like this, and you can adjust the height of it depending on whether it's hot or cold. As the air comes up, it flips it up over you so you don't get blasted in the head with all kinds of air, and neither does your passenger. That might be a solution for you. There are several other really good windshields out still available for the 1500. Same thing's available for the 1800. Less options for the 11 and 1200, but there are some available. Another option that might be a little bit more expensive, there are shops that will design custom windshields for you. If you have one, you can give them a template, or they may have a template already for a 1500 that has the proper slots drilled in the front, and they may be able to cut a windshield to your specifications. So if you want a really nice tall one like this, they may be able to make one for you. All right, hope that answers your question. On to the next one from Randy Valance. It's from Battle Creek, Michigan, who has a 2012 1800. After I had my tires and brakes replaced along with fork seals, I noticed that when I first get on the bike and the ride steering feels stiff and weird when turning, almost like a gyroscope effect. After a few minutes, it seems to go away. Any ideas? I have a couple ideas, actually. So you had the forks done. So that tells me that they had the forks apart in order to do the seals. And more importantly, they had the front wheel off. It's very important on the Goldwings. There's a very specific sequence that you have to use when you reinstall the wheels in order to make sure that you do not have stress and pressure on the fork system, particularly how it's bound onto the front axle when you're installing the wheel. If you do it in the wrong sequence, the wheel will be on there, it will spin. Because it's spinning on the bearings, it'll work just fine, but the forks themselves are actually bound up a little bit. So you have a lot of stiction. And stiction is, it's like friction, but it's the amount of friction required to overcome something at rest. So if you have a fork coming through here, this is your fork, and it's not moving, and you take a little bit of pressure and then it breaks free. And now it takes less pressure to move it once it's actually moving. That initial pressure that it takes to break it free, that's called stiction. And when you have the front wheel installed incorrectly, you can actually increase the stiction on the front forks to the point where the front end feels weird. And I think that's what you're talking about. It feels weird because the forks are bent a little bit, and it's not as compliant as it should be. And once you get things moving, and it may be because you're getting a little used to it, or maybe it's warming up, maybe it's getting a little more lubricated and the stiction is a little bit less, so you're not feeling it as much. I suspect that might be the case. You said you had tires and brakes replaced. I can't see the brakes causing that. Tires, possibly. It might be that you're just not used to the feel of the new tires, but you said that it is going away after a few minutes. So unless it's the tire heating up causing it. But again, I have a feeling it might be the actual way the wheel was installed. If you have a look at the service manual or on GoldwingDocs web forum, you've got several different fasteners that clamp that axle in place, and they have to be installed at the correct sequence. And you also have to, while they're still loose, compress the front forks in a certain way to make sure that they have actually seated correctly. If you have a look on the how-to section of I believe it's in the 1500 section, but it is applicable to all the bikes. There's a how to remove and replace your front wheel. And I will actually put a link to it in the description down below. And that will describe that entire process of what you have to tighten and when, and how you move the forks to actually get everything compliant the way it should be. So it might be something very simple like that, where it only takes 10 minutes of your time and a wrench to actually fix this. So hopefully that's going to help you out. All right, that's all the questions we have for today's episode. If you have any thoughts, questions, please leave them in the comments below. And please don't forget to click like, subscribe, click that little bell. You have no idea how much it helps us out when you do that. I gotta say, the number of people who have been subscribing to the channel has just skyrocketed in the last few months. And it's really great to see how this YouTube channel is growing, because you seem to really like what I'm doing with it. So if you have any comments or suggestions what you'd like to see on here, please don't hesitate to leave them down below. And of course, don't forget to check out the GoldwingDocs web forum. 90,000 Goldwing owners just like you. Friendly people willing to help with any questions, problems you might have, or just say hello. Thanks for watching. Well, I have a feeling you're talking about my windshield. This is Slipstream, Airstream. What the hell is the name of this thing? Windstream, Slipstreamer. Oh, I gotta get my hair out of my eyes. Okay. Episode 14.